Welcome to part 3 of the SRC Back-to-School Live Forum series. Our focus, hear the children's voices, preparing the learning environment. Brought to you in collaboration with the Early Childhood Commission as part of the Child Rights Series 2025. Hear the voices of our children, we have rights too. I'm your host, Winsome Sharia-Witter. We're connecting not just as educators, professionals, and parents, but as partners in shaping the lives of our youngest citizens. And we take our cue from the children themselves. They have told us what matters most: to be loved, to learn, to be safe, to play, to be heard, and to be treated fairly. These are not just words, they are the foundation of dignity, growth, and opportunity. Our responsibility is to listen, to reflect, and to act in ways that honor these rights in every classroom and every community. So before we begin, let us listen directly to the children in their own words.
I have the right to a name and a family who loves me. My name is special and my family makes me special.
I have the right to go to school and learn new things. I love learning about nature and reading.
I have the right to good food and clean water every day. Healthy food gives me energy to play and grow. I have the right to be safe and protected from harm. If I feel scared, I can tell a grown-up I trust. I have the right to play and have fun with my friends. Playing helps me to learn and be happy. I have the right to be heard when I have something to say. When I talk, others will listen and hear. I have the right to be treated fairly no matter who I am. All children are special and we all matter. All children have rights to be safe, to be healthy, to be happy, to education, to a family, to be heard. All children have rights. We are children, big and small. We have rights, one and all, to learn, to play, to speak and grow, to be safe and loved. Now you know. It is everyone. Let's all remember we all have rights and should also respect the rights of others.
Thank you to our children for reminding us so powerfully what truly matters. They've given us the framework for this discussion, and our panelists will help us reflect on how we can make these rights real in every learning space. So help me make welcome on screen Tracy Ann Johnson, Senior Inspector, the Early Childhood Commission. We have with us also Keisha Archer-Howell, Early Childhood Development Officer, Community Relations Manager Karine Francis, and Assessment Services Manager Lorian Robotham. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Already we have Elite Basic School Region 7. And so sweet. Love this. Love this. Yes, they're so adorable. Sophia is saying, let's get ready to head back to school indeed. All right. Amazing. Right. So let's begin with our children's first message. Let me bring that on screen so our viewers can follow along with us. I have the right to a name and a family who loves me. My name is special and my family makes me special. All right, so let's get the conversation rolling with Keisha. How can our early childhood institutions strengthen partnerships with families to ensure every child feels loved, valued, and recognized as unique?
Good night, everyone. Thank you, Winsome. What an awesome start to this program tonight. Just to see how our children, how happy they look, how well they spoke, it is just so refreshing. So congratulations to those children at Amrit's Basic in Region 2 and to the parents and the teachers who would have supported that video. Very awesome. All right, so the partnerships between early childhood institutions and families, it has to be intentional, respectful, and inclusive. And there are different ways to achieve this. I think one of the starting places is the creating of welcoming and inclusive environments. These environments have to be respectful. Communication has to be an important part of this environment. So families understand that they are appreciated, they are allowed to communicate with teachers and vice versa. Also, another way to strengthen the partnership with parents is to involve them in the learning activities. So families, parents and families, there is a place for them in the actual activities that the children are doing within the early childhood environments as they learn. And one of the guiding principles of our curriculum has to do with parental involvement. So it is actually, we can say, a requirement for our parents to be involved. Also, our parental involvement policy speaks to parents being involved. Our parents are expected to go into the early childhood institutions. They are to find out what the children are learning. So as they enter the early childhood institution, we expect that they will see, for example, a program plan board that clearly displays what the children are learning, the different activities that they are involved in. Also, our teachers can share and should be sharing the children's progress with our parents. So when the children's progress is being shared, this is an opportunity for families to celebrate with the children. So they are feeling even more loved, they are feeling valued, and they are feeling recognized. Then there are several activities that school can engage in. For example, a very common one is sports day. Usually parents look forward to attending their children's sports day. So that is one example. And there are many opportunities throughout the year, the school year, that other family members can actively be a part of the learning of the children. So when all of this is happening, when families and teachers are in a good communication, are collaborating, these are several opportunities are presented here for our children to be valued, loved, and recognized as unique.
Amazing. All right. So we're going to keep the conversation rolling with Karine. In what ways can communities help reinforce the sense of belonging and identity beyond the school wall?
All right. So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Winsome. Now, We know that all children are born into families. Likewise, all children are part of a community. So when we look at it, the child first interact in their homes with their families, and in turn their families introduce them to their community before they even get to the school level. So your neighbors know who your children are, and it starts by using the child name. We know that culturally, I'm not everyone has a nickname that is just given to them based on how you look, based on your physical characteristics most of the time. So we want to encourage our parents that as they interact with the various systems within their communities, that their child they're known by their name. I am a girl. My name is Kareen, and it's not Brighty, because what we understand is that most of the time our children start school, and what you understand is like, what's your name? And you say, oh, Miss Chin. That isn't the child's name. And another thing too is that the child doesn't know the name, which is the government registered, because this is what they're used to. Starts in the home, it's in your community, and then you're now in a new environment. So in order to create that sense of belonging, we are going to ensure, as on the community level, the child is they attend churches, they go to the corner shops, they are in several different activities at the local level. So they're not just Miss daughter or as his son, they have an identity. And once it is that we teach them that I am carrying Francis, then they have that sense of knowing that this is who I am, this is what it means to me. And then at the end of the day, they are able to, they're acknowledged, and then they're able to have that conversation knowing that I am being identified personally, and it speaks to who they are as an individual and not the characteristics of a physical feature.
Fantastic. All right. So when we leave here, we need to ensure that we emphasize this. Name is special, and the family needs to make them feel super special, because indeed they are. All right, we're going to move on over to the next point that our children made. I have the right to go to school and to learn new things. I love learning about nature and reading, and because they're unique and special, we're going to ensure that we support them in that regard. So, Keisha, what does a truly child-centered learning environment look like? And how can sector support services guide schools in making this a reality?
All right, thank you, Winsome. That is a big one. So if you don't mind, I'll take it in two parts. So I will start with answering what a child-centered learning environment looks like. The Conventions of the Rights of the Child, Article 28, recognizes the child's right to education. I have said that to remind us that providing educational opportunities for our children is a right that we are fulfilling. It's not just a privilege for them, but a right. And if we are thinking about education for each child, then we want that education being provided to be child-centered, specific, unique for the child. So a truly child-centered learning environment places all the emphasis, the heart of all the decisions, the experiences, and the interactions must be placed with the child in mind. It respects each child's voice, the child's interests, the child's abilities, the cultural backgrounds, what the child is capable of doing, and see the child as an active participant in their own learning. And of course, this can be achieved through different things. One such way is to ensure that activity plans that our teachers or practitioners are writing for our children reflect their interests, their strengths, and their developmental needs. In a child-centered classroom, we want to see our children working collaboratively in groups. We want to see evidence of constructivism. So the learning and activities needs to be hands-on, where they are pulling their own knowledge and understanding from the learning activities. So the teacher's role is more of a facilitator. In a child-centered classroom, we have to respect our children's voice. So we have to listen to them. We have to respond to them sensitively and respectfully. We have to ensure that their opinions are taken into consideration. A child-centered learning environment takes in all aspects of learning. So we know when we think about a child, we're thinking about different aspects, the social, the emotional, physical, and so on. So our truly focused learner-centered environments will take in all the aspects of the child. And one way to achieve this is through the use of learning centers. So the activities are planned with all the domains in mind. And then to reinforce and to strengthen these skills being learned, our children are given the opportunity to utilize the learning centers within the classrooms. And within early childhood settings in Jamaica, there are 5 learning centers that we expect to see in the learning environment. And I'll just tell you what they are. So there is language and reading, manipulative and cognitive, dramatic play, science and nature, art and sensory. And as you listen to the names, you can perhaps guess what you would find in some of them. So we know for art and sensory, we are finding art supplies. We are finding sensory toys in that center. For manipulative and cognitive, we are finding blocks, puzzles that the children can manipulate. So all those centers and materials and activities aligned to those centers being in the classroom will definitely support a child-centered environment, because right there we're giving the child options. We're giving them different activities, we're giving them different resources that they can utilize to build their skills. Another simple, but for me, very important aspect of child-centered environment is seeing the children's work displayed. You know, we are talking about the children, their work, their learning environment. We want to go into the spaces and we want to see their work around the classroom. And lastly, for this conversation, but by no means least, is our teachers. So in a child-centered environment, we have teachers who are flexible, they are observant, and they are responsive. So they are looking to see what interests the children. They are recording the children's progress. They are looking at their likes and their dislikes. And when all of this comes together now, the teacher is able to plan activities that suit the interests and the needs, because we also have to factor, so we're factoring their likes, dislikes, their interests, and also where they are developmentally and how we can provide additional activities and resources to support them. So planning, yes, it is structured, but it is also emergent. So activities are structured, yes, but teacher is also responding to the children's cue to further expand or may even have to change some of the activities or resources within the space so the child is really being catered to. So generally, Winsome, we want our children to be learning in happy and fun-filled environments. So I can't speak about a child-centered environment and not talk about it being safe and it being a place where learning is fun. So that's part one of the question, what the environment look like. And the next part, remind me of the next part of the question.
So the next part is, how can sector support services guide schools in making this a reality?
Okay, thank you. All right, so one of the activities that is done through the Early Childhood Commission And even though it is sector support, we have a head ed per se, we have all departments, we have all field officers, we have members from head office participating in this activity. And this is called our Learning Environment Month. And this is usually in the month of August, most times 2 last weeks, where we use this opportunity to go into our schools and support them with the setting up of the learning environment. So teachers, practitioners, parents, partnerships we are building are encouraged to go in and declutter the space. So we're taking out the things that we don't need for the coming school year. We're decluttering, we're cleaning, and we are setting up the spaces. So that is one of the major ways how we support. And as I said, it's not just sector support for that. All of Team ECC is involved in Learning Environment Month. Sector support now, specifically, the early childhood development officers, they visit ECIs and they use what we call the classroom observation tool. And this is an automated system that helps to record best practices and child outcomes in the learning space. They use this tool to support the teachers. So at the end of administering the classroom observation tool, different areas would have been observed. So there are 4 main areas that we look at when we do the classroom observational tool. We call it CUT for short. So we are looking at the physical learning environment. So how is it set up? For example, are there child-sized furniture? Are the learning centers there? Are they organized? We also look at classroom management. Another area is assessment and evaluation, and then there is planning. So for planning, for example, we are looking at the instructional strategies employed. Are they child-centered? Do they cater to all the domains of the child? So having conducted this observation now, and by having direct conversation, question and answer with the teacher, reviewing the activity plans, the officer will also review the children's progress records that are available. The officer is able to generate, using the instrument, a score that the practitioner would have been assigned based on the 4 areas that I would have shared earlier. The officer is now able to provide that practitioner with direct feedback. So right there in that space, having observed, having done the review of the documents, the officer is now able to give direct feedback to the practitioner. So that is another way how we support. Sometimes based on the observations, the feedback has to be extended. So a practitioner may need additional support that is required after that day. So the officer may need to now provide additional training or resources to support the teacher based on what was observed on that day. We also, sector support services also provide ongoing training for our practitioners. So every month there is a training session held for each age group. So from the babies to the 3-year-olds, the 4 and the 5. So practitioners meet with their early childhood development officers once per month, and they are provided with training based on the needs in the schools, based on the needs in the zones. And this is done in collaboration with our inspectors. So our inspectors also go out and do their assessments, and they may realize that there are certain gaps that need to be corrected. And through conversation with the early childhood development officers, training sessions are planned to ensure that these gaps are no longer there. So our practitioners receive the training as they need to. So those are two ways. And I must talk about here in some our professional development institute. So yes, we have our weekly training session, but then we have our major professional development institute held in May each year, and that is a great space. There is so much learning and sharing going on in that space. So our practitioners can also pull different strategies based on the topics being covered to help support them in the classroom. And lastly, for this conversation is the continued partnerships for learning resources for our ECI. So our executive director is always looking for partners for our ECIs. And as the conversation continues, and even as you would have seen from the video, learning resources are very important to children at this age because we want them to have the hands-on activity, the hands-on use of the different materials to support their skills and their learning. So we continue to partner with different agencies and organizations to get additional resources for our children. So those are some of the ways how we are guiding and supporting the child-centered learning environments in our schools.
Amazing. A lot of practical support there, not just theory, but we are providing the support that's necessary to make this happen. All right, let's bring Lorian into the conversation. Lori, how do we ensure assessments are not only about measurement, but also about growth, helping parents and teachers unlock each child's potential? Because that's what it's all about.
Yes, it is. For us, we have to approach it through the lens of the child, right? So we oftentimes, in our effort to plan the best activities, to give the support, we look at children collectively, but we always encourage our teachers or parents to look at the child. So from the parents' perspective, if we're having a conversation that may lead to we may be seeing some issues and we're a little bit concerned about a particular area of development. Sometimes a parent would say, but I had a child before and this child never have no problem. And you see the comparison going on and or it's same way, so that child this day and nothing wrong. Right. So we try to, shift the lens to the parents and that you had another child, wonderful, but this is a different child that may have different interests, that may have different capabilities. And we're just looking in on, what it is that we're observing over a period of time, and we're seeing the best fit for your child. From the lens of the teachers now, their dynamic is very different. They have 15 little bodies in front of them, very busy, want to explore the whole world, and they're trying to manage the classroom. And then they may, have some children who requires a lot more attention. We ask them to look at our assessment tools as an opportunity for us to really see the strengths of the children, to get a sense of what their interests are. And then from that standpoint, you create activities to engage them. What am I saying? If we have busybody Lori in the classroom who...
I cannot talk. Send me a message.
Oh, sorry, Karine, I was hearing you. That's fine. If we have a busybody Lori in the classroom and you recognize that Lori love red things, perhaps a red toy could be that starting point for a conversation. I'm giving Lori this red doll, and she's going to tell me something about the red doll. I'm trying to expand her ability to speak in terms of creating sentences. And then I might shift it a little bit now. Wow, Lori, you have been sharing great sentences with me. Can you now share it with your friends? And then it's in a show and tell kind of setting where I get to tell a story about my red doll. So it's moving Lori from a place where Lori's very distracted. She's not really sticking to tasks, using something that interests her, and just spinning it around to get the outcomes that you want in a practical way. So while we might look at our data collectively to say, literacy is really an issue, we still would have to look on it from that individual child's perspective to see which area, we need to strengthen. Is it communication in terms of, am I understanding what is being said, or is it I'm having a difficulty speaking? Um, it's always trying to not add, you know, labels that may attract a lot of negative stigma, and just look at the strength and the possibilities and the potential, of our children. So, I mean, we may have conversations with parents about, um, I think something is wrong with the teacher based on how she would have rated my child. You know, um, the dynamics of the relationship between parent and teacher is also something that we try to sensitize our stakeholders about. We try to let them know that your partnership, both teacher and parents, is when we have a very solid relationship, the learning outcomes for our children is way better. So we don't want the assessment tools and instruments to be used to, put down the children where, my child was assessed and the child is considered or presenting with autism or ADHD, and then the teacher is like, no, I don't want him in my class. That's another issue that we have to face. So we try to look on it from an individualized lens. We have developed our individual learning support plans, which really speaks to, okay, what are the strengths of the children and how do we use their interests, their likes to promote areas that we need to improve on. So when we approach it from that standpoint, we find that teachers are more receptive and the parents are a little bit more at ease in terms of working together with both teacher and child to have a better learning outcome. So we don't look on the assessment tool as, just numbers or the child is just doing, we have to look on it from an individual point of view. So that is really our messaging. We're not big on labels. We just want to look at what is happening in your space. How can we make your space more conducive, productive? How can we support you in any way? And we're not looking necessarily on child A that you had 10 years ago with different circumstances, different environmental issues. We try to keep the focus on what's happening now and how it is that we can create solutions to support our children.
Thank you so much, Lorianne. Look at that. We are already halfway into the segment, over halfway, and we still have a number of rights that we have to get to. So let's bring on the next one. I have the right to good food and clean water every day. Healthy food gives me energy to play and to grow up. And we are going to bring Tracy-Ann into the conversation now. Tracy-Ann, go ahead and unmute for me.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Right, so we want to hear from you. How do regulations and monitoring safeguard these essential standards in early childhood institutions?
Okay, firstly, we need to establish that the Early Childhood Act that governs the operation of our organization recognizes that food and water are essential rights. So institutions are in fact required to provide safe drinking water at all times and ensure that nutritious meals that meet the developmental needs of the children are available. So some person may say, but parents do provide lunch for their children. They don't necessarily purchase it at school. However, the institution must have in its existence a nutrition plan that promotes healthy eating habits that are in line with the Early Childhood Act and regulation, and food must also be prepared under the remit of the Public Health Act. So all institutions are required to have their staff have a current and valid food handler's permit. We don't want a situation where we have staff members handling food, however, they have not yet been certified by the Public Health Department as having met the requirements. The institutions itself are required to maintain satisfactory inspections by the respective parish local public health departments. And as the inspectorate, we ensure through our inspections that food preparation and storage facility meets these standards. So meals are being prepared and stored properly. And we also ensure that the institutions have a nutrition plan. And this particular monitoring that we do safeguards children's rights to proper nutrition, also access to clean water that supports their growth, learning, and their overall well-being. Of course, this particular right directly supports Article 24 of the Convention on the Rights of a Child, which guarantee that children have the right to the highest attainable standard of health that includes the access to safe and clean water as well as nutritious meals. So that's how we go about ensuring that we safeguard this particular right in terms of having access to good food and clean water.
Fantastic. And I saw someone in the comments confirming some of what's been said. All right. So in the interest of time, we're going to move right over to the next right. I have the right to be safe and protected from harm. If I feel scared, I can tell an adult I trust. For those who joined us after, the video is there. You'll be able to watch the replay. All right. So we are going to bring in Kareen now. How can parents and educators build trust so children feel secure enough to speak up when they're afraid? Let's get practical. Kareen.
Especially with our little people, we have to be active listeners. And what that means is that we have to be present. I know that as parents, it's difficult because you're juggling your family. Some persons are juggling work and essentially looking at themselves as individual. However, one of the things we know is that our children are storytellers. And when they start to tell their story, they're not going to leave out any detail. So we have to take an interest in the stories that they're telling us. So it's not about just having them carrying on, but occasionally asking the questions, asking for details. So who is Kaden? Oh, Stacy is your friend. What do you like about Stacy? Getting to know them on a different level. Okay, what do you like about your teacher? What you said teacher did today? So essentially, when we do that, we are able to guarantee that our children come to us with the smallest and the biggest of things. So asking your child to tell them about their day and also sharing your day with your children. So it's knowing your child's strengths and weaknesses and what it actually means. Once the trust is established, then you're guaranteed that the conversation opens up to any and everything. So you'll know what is right and what is wrong, what is happening in any situation. For example, when you're explaining to your child about good and bad touch, because this is where we started, right? It's simple. It's in the little conversations. You can actually be cooking. It can actually be right before bedtime. So it's a serious topic, but it's how it's presented, because you want to establish that relationship where the child is completely comfortable. And then if anything happens out of place, then it's not a means because Uncle Bobby or cousin told them not to say anything. Because if you know something, our children can't keep secrets, especially when they have that relationship with you. So irrespective of somebody saying that keep this between you and I, they know that they come to mommy and daddy first, or they go to their teacher, because these are the persons they would have had that relationship with, they feel comfortable with. So they're more open to speaking about what is happening. And looking at something as simple as, for those who transport their children, who do not transport their children personally, so they have a driver picking them up, whether it's a bus or a taxi, introduce your child to this driver. If the driver has a support, so the name of the driver, you tell them the purpose of the driver in front of the person, right? So they know, all right, it's not necessarily a friend of mommy or daddy, but he's responsible for your safety to and from school. Then afterwards, you have the conversation that anything happens that you're uncomfortable with, whatever that may look like, then you know that you are free to say it to me, and mommy won't be upset, daddy won't be upset, and we can talk about it. So you're establishing that relationship, and you're ensuring that the child is comfortable enough that they're also situationally aware if something happens out of place, because we check up on them every day, then we know how to react, and they in turn, they become a bit more emotionally intelligent, and then they respond to us accordingly. So for the little things that may happen in terms of the bullying, the somebody taking your seat and you may be treated unfairly, these are things that come back to you, because then you would have created that safe space for your child so that nothing is off limits.
Well said. I love the practicality of it. And we want to make sure we keep this going. All right. So the next right, I have the right to play and have fun with my friends. Playing helps me to learn and be happy. And don't we all want to be happy? Our little people surely wants to be happy, and we have a responsibility to keep them playing and happy. So let's bring on back Keisha. Why should play be viewed as an essential part of learning, not just recreation at the early childhood level?
All right, thank you, Winsome. So that beautiful girl said it in a nutshell. Playing helps me to learn and be happy. And ultimately, those are two of the things we want for our children. We want them to be happy and we want them to learn. A play-based approach, though, is universal. So the Conventions of the Rights of the Child, Article 31, speaks to the rights the children have for play and for leisure. If we think of our Jamaican early childhood curriculum, one of the guiding principles there as well speaks to the need for the child to play and interact with their environment. And why are we saying all of this? Because play has so many different benefits. For start, it is building their brain power. So as they play, they are problem solving, they are experimenting, they are involving critical thinking, and all of that is good for the brain, as we know, especially in the early years. Then one of the things I love about play is how from one activity, there are so many aspects that can be enriched. So as we think about the child and the holistic development and the uniqueness of the child, from one play activity, a child can develop language and communication skills, right? They can develop physical skills. So the gross motor, when they are running and climbing, the fine motor, when they are drawing, when they are using the materials in the manipulative and cognitive area, they are developing their fine motor skills. If we think about emotional and social development, that also comes out in play as they learn to take turns to negotiate. They learn how to show empathy. So many different things that come out from children playing, whether in groups or even when they are playing on their own. Play also is really the foundation for other learning to come, because we know that when they are playing, for example, they are playing with blocks. This is supporting mathematical concepts, early geometry, they are learning there, spatial reasoning, and things like that. So play has so many different benefits for the child. We just need to let them play. And also, we need to play with them.
Wow, we need a lot of energy to play with them, because they always say, nobody wants to play with me. You're not playing with me. Oh, Lord, teach us how. All right, we're going to keep it going to the next right. I have the right to be heard when I have something to say. when I talk, others should listen. Right? As adults, we love it when others listen to us. It's a sign of respect, and our later citizens need that kind of respect as well. So, Kareen, what can parents and teachers do to create safe spaces where children's voices are not only heard but acted upon?
All right. So we would have established trust earlier, right? And you would have learned the strengths and the weaknesses or the children's fears, their aspirations through their little stories. You could see essentially where their characters are being developed. And you can tell from there, what their future would look like. So we are creating safe spaces. And in order for them to be heard appropriately, we are setting aside that time where they are allowed to express themselves and to express themselves openly. So we are creating family time. We are using stories, we are using the chores, we are engaging in their homework, we're taking interest in the little things that they do and also the big things that they do. But in order to ensure that their voices are being heard, we are also engaging them in different activities. We're ensuring that they are developing their little self-esteem. And what we do in that settings is that we look at the social groups that exist. So faith-based, if your children attend church, have them actively participate in Sunday or Sabbath school. And what it means is that they are part of the general worship session and they hear occasionally, they get to do like the scripture reading, they get to do the summaries, they get to actually be present and to express themselves. On a community level, you look at the small groups. So for those who have active social groups in the community, engaging them in for those who love football, learning a skill like netball, whatever it is, you ensure that the village that they're a part of are aware of these little people, are aware of their strengths and that they need the support. So one of the things you can do too is expressive. Are they good at debating or even talking? They're good at talking, they're good at the storytelling. Have them be a part of a debate club. For those little ones who are good at dancing, whatever form or hearts of dance, they're part of that. I would have seen recently, it was for Grand Gala, a lot of community children were at that practice, for presentation at the National Stadium. So it's these little youth clubs that children become a part of. They're expressing themselves and their voices are now recognized on a different platform because you're actually acting upon the fact that here is what you can do and I am here to support you. And now we're in the season of back to school. So one of the little things that we can also do is to take them along with us while we're shopping. So we know their size, so it's not only when we're buying the shoes, but have them choose the bag, have them look at the books, have them pick out their own pencils. You're choosing the different clothes, so they're a part of the process. They're engaging in the varying activities because then you give them that level of responsibility so that they are fully engaged and they know that they have the ability to express themselves. And at the ECC, we have our parent places. Now, we have parent places established within our ECIs, and it offers training and empowerment to our parents to better support their children. So we equip parents with the key so that when they go back into their families, they don't feel too overwhelmed. So they're able to listen to their children and also to respond appropriately.
Fantastic. So I'm hearing a lot of things in that, Kareen. They are developing their sense of identity, discovering their likes and dislikes because they get to choose. And they are also building their confidence as they participate in these different activities. Amazing. And our final right for this evening, I have the right to be treated fairly no matter who I am. All children are special and we all matter. Right. Tracy Ann, let's hear from you. How does the regulatory process ensure inclusivity for children of different abilities, backgrounds, and circumstances?
that we stand on the Early Childhood Act and regulation, and as such, we place strong emphasis on fairness and inclusion in our early childhood institutions. And this starts from the very admission policies that institutions have. We encourage them to ensure that there is no discrimination against children based on any form of disability, health status, background, or family circumstances. And this, of course, aligns with Article 2 of the Convention on the Rights of a Child, which guarantees that all children have the right to non-discrimination. This means, of course, that no child can be turned away from any institution simply because they are different. When inspectors visit institutions, we of course check to see whether there are existing policies in writing that speaks to child rights and inclusion. And of course, where this is absent, it is encouraged that it is developed and executed by institutions. We also assess the individual classrooms in terms of their accessibility to children who may have mobility challenges, as well as to parents and visitors that may visit the institution that may have mobility challenges. We also look on whether or not the teachers adapt activities for children with special learning needs. And of course, we encourage our institutions to have flexible scheduling as well as flexible daily program plans, whereby the individual developmental needs of each child is being met. And of course, I believe my colleague, Dr. Archer, would have made mention earlier of the different programs that we do to support our teachers. And one of that would be ensuring that they develop individual learning support plans for children to ensure that they're meeting their different developmental milestones. Now, these may sound like small detail, but they're very central to what we call fairness in the classroom and ensuring that we are supporting Article 23 as it relates to the rights of children with disability and the right to education as it relates to our children having the right to education. And of course, as inspectors, we ensure that the institutions uphold these principles, because fair treatment in practice to us is a teacher ensuring that not only does children have access to play daily, but that their developmental needs are being met by the teachers having flexible scheduling in the classroom, as well as ensuring that program plans are available daily and that they're meeting the different developmental milestone of these individual children.
Thank you so much for that, Tracian. Amazing. We have the right to be treated fairly. And as we prepare to round out, we are going to close with, we all have rights and we should also respect the rights of others. All right, so let's get everyone in the frame. All right, so we're going to do a roundtable now where we hear everyone's views. All right, so how can educators, regulators, families, and communities model respect for rights in everyday practice so that children not only know their rights, but also see them lived out around them daily? We're going to start with Karine, then we go to Lori, then Tracy, and then close out with Keisha. So go ahead, Karine.
All right. So we know that our children are sponges and they are going to do what we do, not so much what we say. So at a community level, the community relations officers, we do walkthroughs. We have our ECC Community Flex and an ECC Walk and Talk. And what we want to promote in our communities is that sense of village. So, you know, if our young children are around, we try to monitor the conversation as best as possible. So we're not using the same language as we would with adults. We are not engaging in the same activities as we would with adults. So we are respecting our children because these are our future leaders, right? So what we put in is essentially what we are going to get out later on. So we are encouraging not just our parents, but the residents, the different organizations and groups that they interact with, because at the end of the day, we have to determine what our future looks like. So for us, we are creating that safe and supportive environment.
All right. Lori?
We definitely look at inclusivity, fairness from our lens is really looking at the diversity of our children, the diversity of their needs, the diversity of their support, and just treating them with dignity. So, dignity is not something that we tend to associate sometimes with our babies because they're babies in a lot of our minds, but they are persons, they're people, they have their feelings, and they should be respected. Um, we have to model that by our interactions. So we acknowledge our children by calling them by their names. And sometimes as teachers we get very busy and you boy come here because the discipline needs to straighten up right now and you want to manage that particular behavior that you find disruptive. But simple things like acknowledging the child's name, even in that moment, is saying to him that you have a name, you are special, I should respect you despite everything that is going on, and then have uh, positive discipline as it relates to how we interact with our children. We can look on it from the lens of, okay, how is it that I create spaces that make my children feel safe? Um, when they come into the space in the morning, am I greeting them with a good morning? I remember some time ago, I would have watched a video where a teacher would have unique greeting methods with each of her children. So they had either a bump of the face or a touch of the cheek or just to acknowledge that, okay, you're coming into this place, I'm happy you're here, let's go exploring and learning together. um, there are many ways we can really model the behavior, um, but we have to always remember that oftentimes it's not what we say, but is what we do. And even though they can't express oftentimes, what they're noticing, children are replicating what they're seeing. Children are showing us what is in the environment. And so we really need to look at ourselves and see what it is that we are showing them and change how it is that we behave. So the way we speak, the type of language that we use, is it one that's encouraging, uplifting? Um, do I feel special even if it's a matter of reprimand? Um, but overall, we just want our families to recognize that their words have meaning and it matters. Again, we're advocates for social and emotional learning spaces where we look at not just the physical space, but how we're interacting with each other.
Well said. Tricia?
Okay, so as my colleagues alluded to earlier, children learn their rights not just by hearing, but by seeing it being practiced. And of course, as educators, we can model respect by including all children, ensuring that we are listening to their opinions and that appropriate teaching methods are being utilized that adapt to different abilities of our children. And most naturally, our families plays an important role in reinforcing this by valuing children's voices at home and teaching empathy and fairness, for example, ensuring that we're educating them about the different rights and that it's being modeled at home. From a regulations perspective, of course, we ensure that our institutions uphold these rights through monitoring and regulation. And this is through ensuring that the established guidelines are being adhered to by the respective institution in meeting or 12 standards as outlined by the Early Childhood Act and regulation. And communities in general, of course, do create inclusive spaces that celebrate diversity. And this is something that we have to ensure is incorporated as it relates to ensuring that our children are being taught the different rights and how is it that they respect the rights in everyday practice. When children see adults consistently acting fairly and respectfully, they then understand that rights are real. It's an everyday practice. It's not just something that is being said or something that is on paper.
Well said. All right. And Keisha's going to bring it home.
All right, as we take it home in some, one thing that is very simple as we build and end on the practical strategies is to praise our children and to do so in intentional ways. So we are not just saying to them, good job. We are being specific. So we can say, thank you, Zari, for helping your friend Zai. That was very thoughtful. So our children see themselves as capable and valued contributors. We want to continue campaigns like this lovely partnership between the ECC and the Serenity Resource Connector, where we continue to advocate for the rights of the children and provide the practical solutions that can support their rights. And as been said, but I'm repeating nonetheless, we have to practice what we preach. So we can't be only telling our children that they have rights, but we have to stop. We have to slow down sometime. We have to stop and listen to what they are saying, show that we really are respecting their rights. And sometimes we really just have to challenge adultism. You know, the idea that as adults we know best. We may know best to some extent, but we still have to involve them in age appropriate decisions. Let them know that they really do have choices and their voices, their rights are really being upheld. And finally, for me, I think we have to reflect regularly. So we encourage our practitioners to reflect on the teaching and learning activities, but even in the home, even the communities, we also have to reflect on how we are embracing the children's rights. So my question, I'm now posing a question in some to all of us. Did my actions today show that I respect the children's rights? So that's food for thought. But with all of us working together and learning together, I am sure that we will continue to uphold our children's rights.
Thank you for that powerful, potent question there, Keisha. And we want to, as you indicated, reflection. Don't just leave the conversation here. I'm seeing some awesome comments, very informative, well said, love this. Don't keep the information to yourself. Please share it. We can keep the conversations going. When you have your PTA meetings in your communities, depending on the topic that's being discussed, you can pull up one of these forum and pick out a section that speaks to what it is that you're dealing with in that specific session that will reinforce what we are talking about here, so we can keep it going to ensure that we all have a better understanding and appreciation for rights. We all have rights, and we should also respect the rights of others, which includes our children. All right, because they are people just like us, just little people. We will grow into big people, but we have to ensure that we respect their rights. So we've heard how families, educators, regulators, and communities can work together to make those rights real, not just on paper, or we're just talking about them, but very practical guidelines there as to how we can get this done by nurturing love and belonging, ensuring safety and fairness, supporting learning and play, and above all, by listening to our children's voices. So let us leave here inspired to not only teach children about their rights, but to model them in our daily actions. Because when children see their rights respected, they learn to respect the rights of others. And that is how we build stronger, more compassionate communities and a better Jamaica. So thank you to our awesome panelists, Team ECC. Thank you to all of you who joined us, whether live or you're watching the replay. And most of all, thank you to the children whose voices continue to guide our work as we keep the conversations going, acknowledging their voices, making them feel a part of the space that we share as we continue. As we head into the new school year, teachers, parents, practitioners, all let us be a part of the change that we so want to see in the different spaces that you occupy, whether it's in the classroom, your houses, your communities across the length and breadth of Jamaica. Let us keep this going. Thanks again, Team ECC, and thank you. I saw Region 1 was well represented. I think something tells me that they followed Doc here, you know, they wanted to.
You sure you don't mean Region 2?
Region 2, you're in Region 2?
Yes, I am.
All right. I saw Region 2. I think Region 2 is the first to indicate their presence here. So thank you all again. I saw Natalia Williams. I remember from 2022 you were on. I remember you. Thank you for joining us. And for the others, thank you so much. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of the night. And we close out our back-to-school series on Thursday with Region 7. So you want to come on back to see our ECC representative from Region 7 along with our regional director for Region 7. And we are going to have heart in the space as well, because we want to make sure that we provide some meaningful guidance as we head into the new school year. Thank you again, ladies, and those who are joining us live and watching the replay. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of the night. A Child Rights Series 2025 Live Forum, Hear the Voices of Our Children, We Have Rights Too, is brought to you on third Tuesdays at 8 p.m. in collaboration with the Early Childhood Commission. Visit our website at www.serenityresourceconnector.com and subscribe to receive our weekly blog post. Join us again on Thursday at 8 p.m. for Community Corner. Thank you for watching.